Hey there, my name's Alex Hedrick and I'm building a tiny house. Hey guys, day one of tiny house project. So today we were working on the subfloor. I built it into 3 separate pieces just because it's going to be easier to work with. Make sure I can waterproof all 3 pieces separately. My base is a 12-foot aluminum trailer by Silverwing. It's 6 feet wide in between the wheel wells, and I'm building out over the wheel wells. So that's going to give me a total of 7.5 feet. I wanted a tiny house that I could pull with a Wrangler. So my goal is to have this tiny house under 3,500 pounds, which is the rating for a 2-door Jeep Wrangler. This trailer is 490 pounds compared to the 12-foot trailer I was looking at in steel was 950 pounds. So that's saving me almost 500 pounds just right there. I also chose it because it will not rust like steel will. So whenever I'm near the coast or a beach or something like that, I never have to worry about the salt in the air corroding my trailers. On the undercarriage, the joists are running lengthways down the trailer. That's why I chose to do the wooden joists on top sideways. And then the really nice thing is this is a flatbed. So it is already primed to be a sealed compartment. So I don't have to put aluminum sheathing on the entirety of my subfloor, which is really nice. It's gonna save me a lot of weight, and it's just such a hassle working with the aluminum sheathing for underneath. But yeah, day one, the outline of the subfloor is done. Time to go to Home Depot and buy more stuff. See you later. Hey guys! So, next phase of tiny house subfloor. Today I went around the edge of the flatbed trailer and put down this Flashmate sealant. And that's just kind of the goal, to make this as airtight as possible, make sure no water is getting in, because I'm using this as the bottom of the floor instead of flashing. Just to save on a ton of weight since I already have it, no reason not to. But just in case that water does somehow seep in, I am putting Tyvek house wrap on the bottom of all the pieces going down with the subfloor, and those are going to be sealed together, so that's going to just be another layer of protection. Next phase is putting this aluminum flashing along the overhang all along the sides, just so that does have protection from the road. It is really heavy stuff, so I'm glad I'm not putting it on the entire bottom of my subfloor. I'm really glad that this came as a flatbed. So once I have the flashing on and all the house wrap on the bottoms of the pieces, I am going to be using 3/8 galvanized hex bolts to attach the trailer to the subfloor. So I've already pre-drilled the holes, and these are just gonna go straight through and have a washer and nut on the bottom. I chose 3/8 instead of 1/2 just because I'm gonna have a ton of them. So this subfloor shouldn't be going anywhere. It should be really stable for the foundation. So yeah, next step. Okay, so after taking off the original sheathing that I had on and redoing it as flat pieces, I realized how much of an idiot I am for not doing this in the first place. You live, you learn. Because I don't need the sheathing to wrap around the edges, because the exterior plywood sheathing that's gonna go on the walls is gonna dip down and come over this anyway, and I'm gonna seal it there. So that was stupid. I only needed on these edges to keep the road rocks and stuff from puncturing the subfloor. Well, you know, it was a good learning experience, and I'm glad I started with the smaller piece of the subfloor and not the bigger one, because that would have been a whole bigger mess to deal with. So, now to do the rest of it. Hey guys, step 1 of subfloor is done. So what I've got done is the frame. The frame is put together in 3 pieces, then it is bolted to the subfloor. I have 21 carriage bolts running through the entire thing, so this thing is sturdy. It is not going anywhere. I also used Tyvek house wrap on the bottom to give it an extra layer of water protection, and I sealed it along the edges with Flashmate sealant. So for the wheel wells, I actually have made these pieces which are going over it. They are going to be sealed and flashed on the inside, so it's going to be completely separate from the exterior. I just didn't want to deal with my wheel wells sticking up inside my house without any kind of barrier against them, and then trying to figure out how to seal all that, so I'm just making it into one sealed compartment on both sides. This is going to screw down into the subfloor after the plywood sheathing is put on top and the vapor barriers have been installed. And then it has a little gap in the front because the wall is actually going to come up and come over here. So it'll lock this into place, but it'll also make sure that the wheel well area is completely sealed off from the rest of the house. So, along all of the major corners, or where these pieces of subfloor are interconnecting, I put some brackets just to help strengthen, and so when the walls are laying on here, it also won't let these bow out or anything, and they'll stay together. You can also see I put some insulation right underneath the joist along the middle of the carriage, and that's because when these overhangs came out, they had to go over a little nub on the side of the carriage, which kind of raised the middle of it, so there was a bit of a gap, and this insulation was just perfect to fill that gap because it also will keep that heat transference down between the wood and the aluminum carriage. So now that I've finished the first phase of the subfloor, there are a few things I would recommend for other people. The first part is my drill bit. So I eventually had to go back to Home Depot and buy this really long 12-inch drill bit for the 3/8 holes I was putting in for the carriage bolts. Originally, I was using a 6-inch drill bit and first drilling through the subfloor, taking the subfloor off, and then drilling through the carriage. And that turned out to be a problem because this drill does not have a level. And so some of the holes didn't quite match up, and I had to widen them or re-drill them, and it was just a pain in the ass. So I would recommend just going and buying a 12-inch drill bit so you can just go straight through in one go, and the carriage bolts will just slide in perfectly. Another thing was the flashing on the underneath, the aluminum flashing. One, use gloves when you're cutting because I sliced open my finger just running it along that flashing. That aluminum flashing is really sharp. Also, I would recommend cutting it into smaller pieces instead of pieces that run along the entire length, because when they're on in that single piece format, they really tend to crumple and not quite sit properly. And so it's not as flat on the edges as I would like it to be. I mean, it'll work fine, and I'll still be able to seal it fine on the edges when I put in an L-bar along the sides, but I just am annoyed with the way it looks. One of the things I've noticed is when I start feeling frustrated with a part, I need to walk away from it, because when you start getting frustrated, that's when you start making mistakes, because you start rushing or you start cutting corners. So if you're doing your own build, make sure whenever you get to feeling like that, you just walk away and come back the next day. So, next phase of the subfloor. I need to put in the piping. The gray water piping is going to run along the subfloor and have an outlet on the left side, and that's going to pipe from the small compact washing machine, the sink, and the shower. I'm using a composting toilet, so I don't need to plumb in any kind of waste plumbing for that, so that's great. I need to buy some insulation. I have not been able to find the R value I want here yet. I probably want something around R20 just for the subfloor, and then probably go even higher for the walls, and then really high for the ceiling, because I want this thing to be a 4 seasons, be able to take harsh winters kind of house. I then need to buy plywood sheathing to put on the top, and then there's also going to be another vapor barrier that goes underneath the plywood sheathing. Once I've gotten the vapor barrier and the plywood sheathing done, then I'll be ready to finish out these wheel wells. I'll be flashing them, sealing them, and attaching them to the subfloor. And that will be the end of subfloor for Tiny House. So I'll be starting on all of that stuff week after next, because next week I'm going to Mexico. I'll also be posting some blog posts and information on my trip, so make sure to stay tuned for that. That's a wrap.